And Justin Trudeau leans into the midlife crisis. While saying, right just after his separation from Sophie, please leave me and my family alone, Justin Trudeau posts a picture with him and his son, which is something that is outside of the norm for the Liberal leader. We haven't seen him using his family since Sophie serenaded everybody. Right. And so that didn't work out so well. And then the family got shuffled back to the backbenches and then, maybe even further than the backbenches. Harrington Lake. Yeah, just get out of here, you guys. We'll see you after COVID. Right. So it's a very, very interesting thing to have the kids not be playing a central role. And now, hey, I'm divorced and here's my kid. I think it's weird. Right. Please leave us alone and respect us during this sensitive time. And also Team Barbie. It's so weird. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. Team Barbie. This is where we're going to start. We're going to start at Trudeau's midlife crisis. Is this just a dad taking his son to the biggest movie in the year? Apparently it's going to cross $1 billion or something like that. Apparently this movie is the biggest thing ever. I have not seen Barbie. I don't even think I've seen a trailer. I saw a review that was a girl on TikTok. And I don't know. I'm not on TikTok. The review was shared on Twitter. And the girl looked offended. And she said, English isn't even my first language, but this movie just hates men. She said, why do you hate men so much? What is wrong with you, Barbie? Why does the Barbie movie have to hate men so much? And as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I'm not interested in watching this movie. So maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a diamond in the rough in the Barbie movie, but I don't think I'm going to look for it. So whatever. I wouldn't take any of my kids to see Barbie. And no, Barbie is just a hard no for me. But here's Justin Trudeau taking his son to Barbie, and he says, we're Team Barbie. There you go. And when I first saw this, I hadn't seen his son. I thought that the kid was like a Barbie representative because the shirt is the same color as the bee in the Barbie. And I thought, this is a weird... If it wasn't his son, this would be even more weird. And I didn't realize right away that it was his son. And then I tweeted something, and somebody was like, it's his son. I said, oh, okay. Still, it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird thing to tweet. Sharon says, marital breakdown or mental breakdown, how not to take the prime minister seriously. And so there's a lot of people reacting to this whole thing. Here is Viva Fry. He says, Justin Trudeau 3 days ago, for the well-being of our children, we ask that you respect our and their privacy. Justin Trudeau today, look at me and my child. Look at us. Pay attention to us. We're Team Barbie. Victim when convenient, center of attention when convenient, classic narcissist. So here's the post on Instagram from a few days ago talking about how please leave us and our children alone. It's the third paragraph. It says, for the well-being of our children, we ask that you respect our and their privacy. Thank you very much. And here you go, son. I'm going to plunge you into the middle of this political discussion. Team Barbie hashtag, right? Hope you can afford groceries this week. We're going to see a movie. What? Right. It's just weird. It's just strange. And people are still speculating on what happened to Justin Trudeau's forehead. Now he's no longer sporting the Band-Aid. And I've seen lots of jokes about the whole thing. Dr. Anastasia says, monkeypox? Has that happened? Matt Wallace says, why does Justin Trudeau have this mark on his forehead? It's a great question. I don't know. I have no idea. It's weird timing, right? Justin Trudeau appears in public with a Band-Aid. Justin and on his forehead, Justin and Sophie separate. Band-Aid is removed, and it's clear that there's I don't know, maybe he bumped his head. He hit a cupboard. He fell down some stairs. Everything's fine. Just go back to paying no attention to the Canadian Prime Minister, right? Very interesting indeed. Anthony says, holy F, let the man go to a movie with his son. So tired of this, and I'm clearly not a Trudeau fan. And James says, the point, I think, is that 2 days after everyone was implored to respect the family's privacy, he releases a photo op of his family. It's hypocritical and clearly pandering, and it flies in the face of his own request. It's unbelievable how out of touch he is. If he wanted to go to the movies with his son, fine. I don't think anybody, I don't think there were paparazzi there. Were there paparazzi? Did people read Us Weekly Canada? Justin Trudeau went to the Barbie movie with his son, right? I don't think people would care. It's the using that as a communication tool. It's the pandering right after requesting the privacy. That's the problem. That's the crux of it, right? And it's funny because, people will push back and say, oh, just let the man live. Sure, fine, please just let us be left out of his living. Just let us ignore it, right? Please. Doesn't anybody have any decency to respect our requests? Jeepers creepers. So Justin Trudeau's hypocritical and out of touch, and it seems like his government is heading for has hit the iceberg. They're taking on water, and the government is sinking. And it can't happen fast enough. It couldn't happen to a worse group of people. Like, thank goodness it took long enough, right? Jeepers creepers. I've been waiting for this since 2017. And really, 2017, 2015, 2014, whatever it is, 2015, whenever he started, right after he started. But I don't know that we're at a point yet where the government is going to change hands, because 2 years is an eternity in politics. Poilievre really seems like he's on an election tear. Like, here's one picture, and I'm sure this is a staged picture. I only saw one person sharing this. This is Emily Brown. I guess Emily Brown was just at the right place at the right time to catch this perfectly framed picture, I guess. And she's electioneering too, but she says, this is a means business team of exceptional MPs. Okay, so you get the flavor of her tweet. And I mean, the picture looks good. The messaging looks good, right? So this team, this conservative team, understands that they're in election mode. They've got slogans. They're testing slogans. They're doing interviews. They're touring places and interviewing people, talking about their pain points, talking about how they'd fix them. This is electioneering. This is campaigning, okay? Everything but campaigning. It's campaigning and everything but declaring that you're campaigning, okay? And so it looks like we're having an election soon. Now, this could just be Poilievre's strategy. It really could. But he's out there doing this kind of work, this kind of stuff, while Trudeau's out at Barbie. Okay, so like there's a difference. But at the same time, Trudeau is doing what Trudeau usually does through the summer, making spending announcements. And Trudeau, make no mistake, is touring constituencies. And I mean, he was at a private backyard the other 3-5 days ago, right? Probably last week, I think he was in a backyard. But he's doing this kind of stuff too. Make no mistake. Everybody's behaving as if there's an election coming soon. So do we think we're going to last until 2025, even with this seemingly solid agreement between Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau? I don't know. Like the agreement's supposed to go to 2025. I think Jagmeet Singh is slated to lose seats, and so is Justin Trudeau slated to lose seats to Poilievre if an election were held today. So it doesn't seem like they'd benefit from running an election today. And the latest projections I've seen don't make it unlikely that Trudeau and Singh would be able to collectively put together a coalition that would beat the number of seats that Poilievre has. So in that projection, they lose. So it wouldn't benefit them to go into a fall election at this point in time, from what I can tell, from where I'm sitting. But maybe they know things I don't know. Maybe their internal polls are very different. But 338's had a huge swing in the last week, right? And that's notable. It's very notable. So here is Poilievre interviewing a farmer, talking about his pain points. And again, this is election kind of campaigning, election style prep work. This is the stuff that builds inroads. This is groundwork. This is ground game, okay? And the Liberals have a good ground game. This is the best ground game I've seen out of the last few conservative leaders. Here we go.
If you think that food comes from a grocery store, then you've got to meet Farmer Earl. Farmer Earl, how long have you been on the farm here?
30 years here.
Stanley's Old Maple Farm. What do you grow?
Soybeans, corn, hay, cattle, horses, make maple syrup.
Maple syrup doesn't get more Canadian than that. So Trudeau's got this carbon tax. It goes on fuel, but ultimately on fertilizer, and then raises the price of everything in the farming supply chain. Tell me what the carbon tax does to your cost.
Fuel and fertilizer are two of our big inputs, and they're growing up very quickly.
How much?
50% in the last several years.
Fertilizer fuel up 50% over the last couple of years. That, incidentally, is as the carbon tax has been rising.
Everything has to go up accordingly.
So when the farmer pays more for the fertilizer to grow the hay to feed the beef, and then the fuel to transport and dry the grain, that goes on to the price tag that the consumer pays to put that food on their plate.
Correct.
Everything from field to fork becomes more expensive when you tax the fuel and the fertilizer. Trudeau wants to go with a 61 cent a litre carbon tax. How much is that going to raise the cost of everything that people eat?
It's going to increase our costs dramatically.
Right. What does that do to your operation?
We take a little bit on the chin and reduce our profits, but we also have to pass it on to the consumer as well.
Right. So it's a tax on food.
Tax on the consumer.
All right, so if you like to eat, And now that you know that food doesn't come from the grocery store, that it has to come from the farm here, an old Stanley's farm, then it has to go in a truck, which also requires fuel. Now you understand that a carbon tax raises the cost of everything in the supply chain that goes from this field to your fork. So my plan is to axe the carbon tax to bring down the cost of fuel and fertilizer, which will bring home lower food prices. What do you think?
Needs to be done.
It's common.
Yeah, this was a self-created problem through bad policy. So if Poilievre is promising that, and he's clearly promising that, and if he follows through with that, then that will create an immediate relief, and it will immediately lower food prices because the transport prices will immediately drop. There will be, he's not lying, it's accurate. The reason that food is more expensive is because of bad policies implemented by this Liberal government. And if you undo those bad policies, which this promised claims that it will, then it would have immediate impact on the economic outlook for Canadians, meaning that they would be able to afford more because things would cost less, because the gas costs less, the transport costs less, the production costs less. It's sound, logical governance. Okay, so I hope, fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed that he comes in and actually does it, right? If he gets in and doesn't do it and has a good explanation, well, that's not going to be good enough, right? But it'll take years for all of that to be worked out, which is what we're dealing with right now, unfortunately. Concerned Canadian shares this. We're talking about food, and he says, watch this clip and form your own opinion. I've stated repeatedly that governments collectively have nefariously targeted the agri and food sectors for their self-serving control and dystopian agenda. And so, yeah, this is from 10 years ago, and I thought this was very interesting. I'll just show the first minute, but this is not by accident. And how do you get people to eat insects? You starve them and offer them insects. And they'll say, if it's this or starving to death, I guess I'll have the insects. Here we go.
Somebody from the UN Food and Agriculture Organization sent me this report. This came out in 2013. Nobody ever reads these things, but he said, this is important. You have to read this. So I read it and ended up writing an article about it. It was published in May of 2016. UN let them eat bugs. Kind of the Marie Antoinette. I don't know that she really said that. A lot of people say she didn't. But the report was about how they're going to make us eat bugs, how meat and chicken and traditional agriculture were not sustainable, and the food of the future was going to have to be creepy crawlers. And they actually have a big section in the report about, those Westerners, they're pretty picky with their food. They're not really going to want to eat bugs. We're going to have a major propaganda campaign. We'll use state-funded media, and we'll use government indoctrination centers masquerading as schools to get them used to the idea of eating bugs. And so I reported all this over 10 years ago. And then along comes Joe Biden.
With regard to food shortages, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real.
It's going to be real, right? So, a lot of people think, I'm not going to eat bugs. That's crazy, right? And Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum, in their little video, they said by 2030, you're going to have to eat a lot less meat to save the planet. So how are they going to get people to eat bugs? Well, a combination of propaganda, indoctrinating children, and making you very, very hungry. And what you'll find as you look at these policies is every single one of the national and state and local policies traces directly back to various UN and World Economic Forum programs like Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 was signed by every national government in the world in 2015. On behalf of the United States, Barack Obama called it an executive agreement. And it's a plan to totally transform every element of our lives. In fact, the head of the UN General Assembly at the time called it the master plan for humanity. And if you read the preface, it says over and over again, no one will be left behind. And so a big part of this, as you read it, and I tie all the points back to that, is you got to transform agriculture, you got to transform the food supply, you got to transform every element of life. And so in keeping with that UN report on using government propaganda, here's the World Economic Forum promoting insect farming. As we speak, they're actually building the largest insect protein manufacturing facility in the world in Decatur, Illinois. So
we have one down the road in London, Ontario, and 2023-24 is insect protein for human consumption. That's the big push for Canada's, one of the Canadian science, I don't think it's the Canadian Science Fair, but it's like a science show or something to that effect. And they want to support people who are bringing insect meat for human consumption. And wild stuff, man. And no one will be left behind. Somebody said to me, I was talking about how like my goat farm will protect me, and I was joking about it, but they called me out and they said, they'll come for your goat farm, Mark. I said, I know. So obviously you have to have a cricket farm and a goat farm, right? So when they come for your goat farm, you can say, but I'm selling crickets. Look, I'm producing insects for human consumption. And then when they look away, you spit out the cricket, right? And then that'll satisfy them for a minute. And then you can escape into the foothills, right? Just like in The Sound of Music. Here is Justice Queen, and she says 72% of people use the cricket scene is a very famous scene from The Sound of Music. Okay, 72% of people using Feed Scarborough Food Bank have been in Canada for less than a year, and 95% of the users report that they were not born in Canada. So that's not great, right? Come to Canada where you will be free from food. You're welcome. We're helping. What is going on, right? Oh, yes, no, you'll have a job. Yes, you'll need a job, definitely. You just might live in your car and you won't be able to afford groceries. We didn't say you wouldn't work. We just said you wouldn't eat. Welcome to Canada. Would you like a bug? Here's a cricket. Dan Albus is responding to this CBC article. Why this compostable checkout bag will soon be banned. He says, he's quoting from the article. To me, the regulation doesn't make sense. You can sell a compostable bag on a shelf, but you can't have it at the checkout, said Kendra S., the assistant store manager. So the government of Canada is going after plastic bags and bags that they identify as plastic bags, even if the bags are actually not plastic bags, even if they're compostable, compounds of not plastic, but other things, right? They say, no, you can't do that because it's too close to plastic and people won't understand. What? Here's the article. Calgary businesses and Alberta politicians are pressuring the federal government to exempt compostable checkout bags from its single-use plastic ban sale, which takes effect in December. The Calgary Co-op is petitioning Ottawa to allow the use of the bags. The store's director of communications, Sarge M, said that they replaced all their plastic bags with an alternative that has a silky feel. Ooh. Immediately, our members said how much they love them, he told CBC, and they also serve double duty. The co-op and the bag supplier, working with the city of Calgary, developed the bag that will break down in the city's compost facility in about a month. The store assumed, because the bags contain no plastics, that Ottawa would permit the bags as the single-use plastic bags, a ban the store supports. So as they phase out the plastic and the single-use plastic bags, which the store supports, they thought that they'd be able to bring in this non-plastic alternative, and they found out that they can't, right? Both Calgary mayors and the Alberta government support the store. Yay. If Ottawa wants to do a blanket approach that doesn't work for everybody, we've got that right now, said Calgary Mayor Gondik. We want to make sure the federal legislation isn't inadvertently hindering innovation in that space, said Alberta Environment Minister Rebecca S. So these bags, not allowed, despite not being plastic and having a silky feel. So it's very, very interesting, right? I think that it's fundamentally stupid. I think they should just say these are paper bags, like done, or like whatever they're made of. If they're not made of anything that is well known already, then make up your own term. Like this material is blah. These are blah bags. These aren't plastic bags, and so they qualify, right? Or is it just a whitelist only in Canada? You can't have bags made of anything other than these materials: cardboard, paper. That's it. I don't know. It's very silicone. I suppose you could have silicone. The plastic-looking ones that have been recycled from jugs and things like that. That seems like it would take a lot more. I don't know that I'm convinced that is better than just making a regular conventional plastic bag. And I don't know that they get used enough times to offset the cost of the production of them. I've seen how it's made, man. These things are not cost-free, right? Like the plastic bags are almost cost-free, right? Like they come in a big roll and you make a whole bunch of them. You make like 10,000 of them on a big fat roll, right? And it's going to cost you much, much less than, I don't know, let's say 150, 500 of the other kind of bags from the bottles. People feel great about themselves, but they don't think things through, really, the footprint of these things. Anyway, regardless, here's the CTV News last bit on food. Canada's inflation rate is plummeting, so why are grocery prices still so expensive? Anti-taxer says plummeting inflation is a sign of deflation, which is even worse. Chrystia Freeland is doing her best to obscure this reality from Canadians. Hard times ahead. So my explanation for why the food inflation is so high and mortgage prices are so high, but inflation officially is so low, is that they looked at kind of a big table of basket of goods that they could choose from. And they chose all the basket of goods that would get them the result that they desired. And they cut everything else out. So that removes gas, that removes mortgage, that removes food. And so they're just not counting it, right? That's tangential. That's not in the basket of goods. We know that some people like to go to the grocery store, but we're not counting that today. Okay, the inflation that we're counting is the general inflation, not including grocery stores. Nobody goes there. Not anymore, right? It used to be a place you could afford, and then the gas prices went up, and people said, "How much? Okay, I guess I have to go to work." And then the gas prices impacted the grocery prices, and now they can't afford both, right? And unfortunately, that's the plan. The plan they're telling you right now is that your electricity prices are going up too. Much higher, they say, much higher. We don't even know. We're not even going to give you an estimate. So that's my explanation. CTV News will give you another explanation, but CTV News is on the hunt for Nessie. So I wouldn't believe anything they say. Goodness gracious me. I'm sure that there's a sea monster in some lake somewhere in Scotland. I'm sure there is. Sure. Why not? I mean, stranger things have been true, right? Why not? But as a news organization with a crumbling country, maybe you should focus on Canada. Maybe you should focus on Canada and the leadership. Maybe you should focus on something to do with Canada, right? Monsters in Scotland is among the last things I want Canadian news agencies to be focusing on, really. I mean, even as a funny story, maybe on Halloween, like maybe in the run up to Halloween, I could see it, but it's July. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful